Aloha, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Triple F podcast, Faith and Family First. I'm your host, Eva Andrade, and I am here once again with my new co-host, Jim Hochberg. And we're going to be talking about the absolutely ridiculous condominium insurance fees that people across the state are feeling. So let's chat about that. Jim, welcome to the show today, buddy.
I'm not old.
You're very old. You're old and you got to rock it, because what does the Bible say about the crowning glory? It's the gray on the head. You got the gray on the head. You got the crowning glory.
I bet you do too.
Oh, I do. I have stock in L'Oreal, buddy. Don't be messing with a woman who dyes her hair. Okay, so here's the thing, Jim. I reached out to you. I wanted you to actually talk today about this, because even though you're not licensed to practice in the state of Hawaii anymore, and I want to make that clear just in case people reach out to you and go, hey, Jim, we need you to represent us, that you'll be able to say, no, thank you. No, thank you. I'm retired now. So in fact, before we jump into this topic, why don't you tell everybody, in very briefly, what's been going on with you there in the beautiful state of, well, right now you're in New York, but your home is actually Florida.
Correct. So it's summertime, and
the
summertime is fabulous, and it's followed up by fall,
And
which
the
I'm very
catfish are
looking forward to,
jumping.
because the leaves change colors and fall off the trees, and then you got to rake them all up. Followed by holidays and Christmas time, and it starts getting cold, and that's when Janet and I are going to head down to Florida, which is actually our state of residence. The free state of Florida. How about that?
Yes, and show everybody your beautiful coffee mug that we made sure that you got to keep from the show. That is, no, there, no, too close. Move it back a little. There you go. Now up. There you go. He has his cup, everybody. It was signed by our wonderful production crew here in the studio. Jimmy keeps disappearing. You look like you're doing a magic show for those that are watching. Yes, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So anyway, Jim, I reached out to you because I got a wonderful letter from my condominium association. So it started with, actually, it did start prior to that, but I'm starting where I started. And I got this wonderful letter from my condominium association that said that my $550 a month that I was paying is now going to be $1,089 a month for the next 4 months. And after I picked myself up off the floor from having a heart attack, I realized that this was a pretty big issue that was happening across the state. And I'm not the only one this is affecting. This is affecting a lot of people. And I reached out to you because in your day of practicing law here in the state of Hawaii, condominiums were one of the things that you specialized in. So I thought maybe you could walk us through the craziness, and it is craziness that's going on right now.
Well, let's put it in context, because one of my favorite pastors always said, content plus context is how you get meaning. So if we're going to talk about this word insurance, and we're interested in it because we have to pay for it, and the premium just went up real high for you and for a lot of people, and actually the legislature was trying to solve this problem, and in conference the bill died, so they didn't. But anyway, what is insurance?
So yeah.
What is insurance? So insurance is a way for a community, either privately or through government compulsion, can pay a little bit of money on a regular basis, usually monthly, and they are buying a contract that will pay them whatever it is that the insurance company is promising. And there's different kinds of insurance. There's life insurance, where you pay every month, and they promise that when you die, your beneficiary on the contract will get the money, not you. The property insurance, which if you have a mortgage, you have to have property liability and property damage insurance. If you don't have a mortgage, you should have that anyway. Because if your house burned down, without insurance, uh, how would you build your house back? And that's the reason the mortgage company says, we'll give you the loan, but you have to have these levels of insurance to insure against these risks. And if your house burns down and you have insurance, but you have a mortgage, chances are the bank gets the money, uh, or although your policy could and probably does for a residential mortgage say that if you use the money to repair the house to the satisfaction of the mortgage company and you keep paying your mortgage, you can use the money to fix the house. Sometimes you're underinsured, you don't have enough money to fix the house because the price of construction has gone up since you bought the policy, and they kind of get renewed every year unless you're diligent and you ask your insurance agent to make sure the numbers are sufficient for the policy that you're buying. But where did insurance come from? Which is kind of interesting. Have you ever heard of Babylon?
No, I've never heard of Babylon. I have no idea what you're talking about.
So insurance was first put into the law in Babylon by Hammurabi in Hammurabi's code. And it was interesting. They thought it would be good for seafaring risk taking. You know, if you put a bunch of goods on a ship to sail to Phoenicia to sell, but the boat sank or it got taken over by pirates or whatever, and you lost the goods that you couldn't sell them, but you borrowed money to make the goods and to ship them. Hammurabi's code said if the ship sinks or if you lose the goods from piracy or theft, you don't have to pay back the loan. That was the first kind of insurance. They were making the bank that gave the loan share the risk with the merchant that the goods would be lost and he wouldn't be able to sell them, so he wouldn't be able to pay the loan back.
Well, all
So,
of this is so good, Jim, and I mean, I do appreciate that you're explaining it. And I know you and I talked briefly about this before, and this is all great, right? I mean, it's all wonderful that this insurance is set up to work this way. But when you move to a society that we're in right now with the economic struggles that everybody's in, people are already leaving Hawaii. You're one of them. Well, you left not so much because of the cost of living. You didn't like the politics, although was the cost of living part of your decision?
yes, but not my insurance premium.
Right. But I mean, the whole idea of the cost of living, because here's what I've been hearing from people where this insurance raise, and I know you've got more thoughts and we'll get back to you, but I just want to say this because I know that people that are listening and watching right now, they're freaked out by this and they don't care that insurance was set up that way because people are choosing now to tap into their retirement funds to pay this extra money. These are the ones that are choosing to stay. I did have at least two people that I know that live in condominiums who have said to me that they want to move because now they're so sick of all this. They just want to move already, but they're in a situation now they cannot sell and they cannot stay. And I know that I said the same thing to my condominium association that I'm stuck now because nobody's going to want to buy my little condominium and have all these increased fees. And my letter, which I had sent you so that you saw what it said, they also warned us that the next 4 months, which is where they increased by this astronomical amount, they're already telling us to prepare for higher rates for 2025. I am already having to juggle my finances around just to put food on the table. But I'm less concerned about myself as I am for those that are on fixed incomes, are elderly among us, the people that are on disability. I mean, this is hurting people. So as wonderful as insurance was set out to be, people are now getting pounded from the left and from the right, and they're tired of it. So I'm sorry to go off on that track, but that's what I'm hearing. So telling people this is how insurance is supposed to work and it's supposed to be a good thing, that's great. But what do you say to the people right now that are like, they're at wit's end and, there's not much answer. So I'm sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. Continue your thought about how wonderful insurance is supposed to be when it works properly.
Well, the reason that I wanted to bring up Hammurabi's code is it was by law a requirement that lenders participate in the risk. Most insurance is hasn't through history been required by the government. It's usually private agreements. They're basically contracts.
Unless it's
And
Obamacare.
huh?
Unless it's Obamacare. That
Well,
was
that's
insurance required.
recent.
Yeah.
That's still recent. 100 years ago is still recent in the insurance land. So the point is, most people buy insurance to manage the risk of loss that will be bigger than they can recover from. And when you are buying into a condominium living arrangement where each person doesn't have their own building alone with the roof and the walls and all the plumbing and electrical service and all that stuff, but you're sharing walls, you're sharing roofs, you're sharing plumbing systems, electrical systems, either vertically in a high rise or vertically shorter in townhomes. The problem is nobody owning one unit in a condominium has a sufficient what is called insurable interest in the thing to be insured because they don't own the whole thing. They only own one of the pieces of it. And if you don't have an insurable interest in the building, you can't insure it yourself. That's why when they started building high-rise and townhome condos, they had to think through how are we going to make an insurable interest? And the insurable interest for the parts of the unit that you don't control, the common areas, is the association. That's why the association buys the fire insurance, the hurricane insurance for the building, and the cost of replacing a completely damaged building of multi-units is way more than a single family home because it's way bigger and the cost of construction is more and all that kind of stuff. So having insurance is smart, and it came out of the need to allow people to live in multifamily structures for condo insurance. So when the hurricanes hit back in the 80s, the legislature got involved with hurricane insurance because hurricane insurance is interesting. You pay a premium for the risk that the insurance company's taking, but hurricanes hardly ever hit in Hawaii. So the risk wasn't that huge. But then Iniki and the other one came and they caused huge damage. So the insurance company has been collecting these premiums for years without paying anything out on your car insurance. You don't have a wreck, you just keep paying for the insurance. It's like you're betting against yourself. Life insurance. I'm going to pay money every month because I'm going to die, and I'm betting that you pay the benefit to my beneficiary before I pay more than the face amount of the policy. With car insurance, you're betting you're going to have a car crash. And so you want your car fixed by the insurance company because the insurance company gets all this money from all these policyholders month after month after month, where they don't necessarily have expenses to pay the benefit of the policy. So they have all this money. What do you think the insurance companies do with all the cash?
They probably invest it.
Well, they loan it out to big uh, developers. If you look at
They loan.
when
We're paying insurance, and they're taking our insurance money and they're loaning it out to contractors.
and the legislature has required in Hawaii certain restrictions on the ability to use that money. They
Right.
have to have a certain amount in cash to cover likely need, but they loan it out and they get it paid back just like your mortgage from developers that build big buildings and need big loans, multi-million dollar, skillion dollar loans. So it's this huge, big thing. It's not just condominium insurance has gone up because the insurance companies have in Hawaii finally begun to suffer nearly catastrophic losses. We had the hurricanes in the 80s and 90s, but we kind of survived that. And then recently we had obviously the burning in Lahaina, which is bankrupting a lot of people. And there was something else that happened before that. I can't remember what it was, but there was another big thing that caused the insurance companies to have to actually honor their side of the contract and pay out the money. So they started looking at the Hawaii market with a little sharper pencil because it was kind of peaceful and easy, like an Eagles song. And, they weren't really raising the rates all the time. And so now they're looking at the risk that they're taking, and it's science. It's not an art. It's the insurance companies have professional uh, oh, I forget what you call the guys in the insurance companies that decide what the premium should be. But anyway, this has been going on for 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years. So it's not a new thing that we're figuring out. It's pretty well settled how they do it. Unfortunately, uh, condominium living has a lot of drawbacks. Number one, you don't have any dirt between you and neighbors on either side, above you, below you, because you're in a condominium building. Um, you That means that you hear your neighbors, whatever they do loudly. Could be music, could be fighting, could be TV because they're deaf like me. Um, and they also have rules you got to follow because everybody's property value is affected by the way all the other owners in the building keep their place up. And condominium living is less expensive, so a lot of people do it, but they maybe don't think all the way through how it's different from having
Well,
your own house.
well, I remember when I was buying my unit up in North Point. I do remember I have some friends that are bankers, and they told me, they said, Evie, you might want to think this through because maintenance fees, when I bought my unit and moved in, my maintenance fees were only like $160 a month or something like that. And they were like, that's going to go up. That's going to consistently go up every year, especially as our units get older and they need more repairs and all that. But again, talking to people that this is affecting, at least the people I'm talking to, nobody's mad about the fact that there's cost increases. I think people kind of get that, right? But I think that for people to be blasted with 100% to, in some cases, 1,000% increase, I mean, there has to be something that because we can't afford to go. I've never been able to buy a house here in Hawaii. It just wasn't going to happen. So if I want to stay here, and now I'm speaking to politicians, if you want people like me to stay here that can't afford houses, then you've got to work with us on this condominium thing. Because I think people understand that they got to buy insurance and all that. I haven't heard anybody say, we shouldn't have insurance, but I hear more and more questions about why from this amount is it suddenly this amount, just because of the line of fires. I mean, that seems to be the only big thing that has happened recently. And if that's the case, should people be pointing their fingers? Is this a case of bad management somewhere? I mean, or are you just saying, well, suck it up, people? This is just how it is. And you live in Hawaii and you live in a condominium. So zip your lip and be quiet about it. I hope that's not what you're saying, because people are wanting to do more and they're looking, to us. I've even had politicians reach out to me and say, Evie, you got to get people involved that this issue is affecting. So I'm curious to see what you're thinking about all this.
Well, so when you're pooling resources to make the risk less expensive for any one person, the main question is, for me, are you doing it as volunteer participants or is the government mandating it? Because the legislature, maybe back in the 70s, started regulating all the different kinds of insurance. And they actually don't let you sell insurance to people in Hawaii unless you've applied and they've accepted your company based on the standards that they require. And the whole time that I was a lawyer for 40 years, it seemed like every 3 or 4 years, the professional malpractice insurance that I carried, the company was leaving Hawaii. And I'd have to find another one, and they'd be around for 3, 4, 5 years, and then they were bailing on Hawaii. And so part of the insurance problem could be because of the way the legislature and the executive offices at Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs Insurance Division has been treating insurance companies that want to serve you but aren't allowed. And the ones that are here and are allowed end up leaving, which is an odd thing, which kind of leads me to believe either the government requirements were not worth the profit they were making, or since it only happened with my professional insurance, maybe lawyers in Hawaii get sued a lot, and so they were paying a lot of money to cover the claims. I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. But I do know with respect to condos, part of the information in the bill that got stuck in conference committee was that there are actually a list of 400 or 500 condominium projects in the state of Hawaii that are uninsurable because of the way they have been maintained over the years. Which is another interesting twist on the thing, because if you haven't maintained a safe building through your board of directors and how they manage the place, and they didn't have money in reserves to pay for things that need to be maintained for safety and the ability of the building to survive, that's not the insurance company's fault. And I don't know what those 400 or 500 projects are, but if you live in one of those projects, you cannot get insurance. If you cannot insure the common elements, you cannot sell your unit.
Oh, that's
because
interesting.
I guess you could sell it to a cash buyer.
Okay, so
You could,
so having said that, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So understanding that there are some situations within this whole scheme of problems that's arising, that there are some things that the government should take a look at and that government should fix. And I think that that's
Not
great.
necessarily. I don't think the government should necessarily fix it. If you look at the bill that stalled,
Right.
basically it's a tax bill. Because in order for the legislature to get involved in providing this insurance, the legislature and the executive branch, they don't charge premiums. Where do they get their money?
Mm. Mm.
Taxes. So if you look at the Grassroot Institute testimony in the hearings earlier this year on the insurance bill that died, what they're basically saying is this bill is huge. It's 50 pages of all these different sections being amended. It's one of those bills. But what they're doing is they're increasing the tax on this, and they're increasing the fees on that, and they're increasing the tax on this and that, because they don't have the money to do this. They have to generate the money to do it. And the way they generate the money is by taxing people.
So, Representative Scott Psyche and Senator Jarrett Keohokalole, along with Gordon Ito, the insurance commissioner co-chair, they wrote, they were part of the task force that was set up to study this issue. And they wrote a memo to the governor. and they made 3 recommendations. The first one was, in order to stabilize the market, they want to suspend laws placing monetary limits on the Hawaii Hurricane Relief Fund and the Hawaii Property Insurance Association. They want to allocate general fund monies to both the Hawaii Hurricane Relief Fund and the Hawaii Property Insurance Association, and they want to allow both of those organizations to implement as many policies reflected as was proposed in a bill that ended up dying. So unfortunately, we already have to wrap up the discussion, but
well, let me tell you what I think the resolution should be, and it's not the government.
Okay, go ahead.
So we have extremely wealthy individuals that live in the state of Hawaii. Oprah Winfrey, Larry Ellison, Don the Rock, whatever his name is. They have so much money. If they wanted to share some aloha with the people in the state of Hawaii that are less fortunate, they could actually provide an insurance fund to solve the problem.
Wow. Thinking outside the box. That's what I miss about you, Jim. We appreciate you all the way across the pond sharing your mana'o with us today, Jim. And I don't know that this conversation is necessarily going to be over because I know that the governor recently signed an executive order regarding this situation. And I know that there's more that we have to get into. And I know people are hurting right now. People are really, really hurting. And another round of these notices are going to go out to condominium owners. My understanding is in January. So this is going to be a ripple. More and more people are going to be affected by this. But
listen to what you're saying. You're looking for the governor to exercise emergency proclamation COVID 2.0 to solve the problem.
No, I didn't say that.
The elected representatives and senators could not agree on the government's bill to have the government do this.
I never said that the governor should do that. I said the governor didn't do it.
Your citizen right
no,
to
I
be
am not.
represented.
Do not put words in my house, Mr. Hochberg. I never said that the governor should do anything. I simply said he did an executive order to help.
And I hate it as much as I hated the COVID
I
orders.
know you did. That's why I'm saying the conversation's not over. So for everybody listening right now who's been flinging things at the radio and the TV because this is affecting you and this conversation did nothing to alleviate your concerns, don't worry, because people in the community do care about you. We care about you. This conversation is important. It's not over. And we want you to stay calm. Take it to the foot of the cross because Jesus can do all things and we can do all things through him who strengthens us. So let's put our faith in the one unshakable rock. Jim, thank you for joining us today, and everybody else will see you. Make sure you like, subscribe, share this video, and hit that notification button so you know every time we upload a new video. Mahalo, Jim. We will see you next time.